want to bring back in Jason Johnson and add to our conversation Christina Greer, professor from Fordham and politics editor for the Grio. Good evening to both of you. Another part of this that we haven't gotten to yet that's important to look at is, of course, the religious politicking that's going on. Not new to Donald Trump by any means, but the RNC bringing in Lou Holtz, who describes himself as a proud Catholic, widely known for coaching the famed Notre Dame football team. And he argues essentially tonight that he somehow knows Joe Biden's sort of religious and spiritual essence and can thus tell the nation that Joe Biden is basically not a true Catholic.
Nobody has been a stronger advocate for the unborn than President Trump. The Biden-Harris ticket is the most radically pro-abortion campaign in history. They and other politicians are Catholics in name only and abandon innocent lives. President Trump protects those lives.
Christina?
Well, I would say President Trump hasn't protected 180,000 American lives that have died during the coronavirus, but I think that this kind of racial hierarchy of Joe Biden isn't Catholic enough is absolutely ridiculous. We know that throughout Joe Biden's entire life in public service, he's talked about his Catholicism, and he's talked about how he has evolved on the issue of choice. And I think that we have a myriad of opinions within the Catholic Church, especially people who are devout and practicing Catholics, as to what it means to be a Catholic and how it is to be pro-choice. And so this idea that Donald Trump is in any way some sort of religious arbiter, a man who can't even hold a Bible upright when he's in front of a church, is absolutely absurd. And I think it's also pretty insulting for people who take religion seriously the way Donald Trump likes to trout out religious evangelicals. He likes to sort of use this idea that Joe Biden is going to help doctors abort babies up until the day their due date, which is a blatant lie, is not only dangerous and untrue. It just goes to the fact that we're dealing with a president who actually has no moral compass. He never has, for those of us who live in New York, and he tries to weaponize religion for his benefit for a man like Joe Biden, who's actually been very clear and honest about what religion means to him. And we know that there's such diversity within how people practice. To have someone like Lou come out and sort of shill for the Republican Party lets us know, as Jason said in the previous segment, how desperate the Republicans are right now.
Right. Well, and Jason, there's a factual version of this argument about what the Trump administration has done with the courts, and that they have put people on the Supreme Court and the lower courts who are more skeptical of Roe v. Wade or outright want to overturn it. And then you can debate what you think about that. That's sort of the truth of it. But the attempt, as Christina just sort of completely dissected, to pretend that somehow if there's going to be a personal religious examination of what are the two major party nominees right now, that somehow Donald Trump comes out ahead. You don't have to be a Michigan Wolverine fan here to think that Lou Holtz is pretty off base.
Well, yeah, all right. First and foremost, the president who literally used armed guards to chase people away from a church so we could have a photo op is really not the person who's a reflection of quality religious beliefs or demonstrating the sort of love of God one way or another. But what it also demonstrates is, I think, for a lot of Republicans, it's not about worshiping Christianity. It's not about their Judaism. It's not about their Catholicism or anything else like that. It's about worshiping Donald Trump. Because if Jesus Christ showed up tomorrow, a black guy with locks, and told them all that Donald Trump is not the person you should vote for, they wouldn't care. They'd probably have him locked up or think that he was a Black Lives Matter protester, which he was. But
you're giving me Malcolm X vibes. You're giving me autobiography of Malcolm X vibes
right there
here.
in the book.
Was he black? Well, he was brown. They settled on that, if you remember the book.
Exactly. Yeah, I do. I do. But I think the other thing, Ari, to remember is when you talk about the judges that Donald Trump has put into office, and this is a key issue that I think other people have written about, it's been written about in the nation, how important those judges are. Yes, they may be pro-life, anti-abortion judges. They are also, in many instances, grossly unqualified. People who barely got through law school, people who didn't pass the bar, people who would be an absolute nightmare to have if they were actually your judges. People like Brett Kavanaugh, who have a long history of possibly being abusive to women. So just because Donald Trump puts in a couple of judges that may be good on one particular issue, they will have a long-term negative impact on so many other rights for Americans, for women, for men, for everyone else like that. I don't really think that's a fair trade-off.
Now, we're almost out of time, but I have one more piece of sound to play. And that is, Professor, I want to hit you, before we lose you, with a little Marsha Blackburn. Are you ready?
So, they tried to defund them, our military, our police, even ICE, to take away their tools to keep us safe. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and their radical allies try to destroy these heroes because if there are no heroes to inspire us, government can control us.
Professor?
Which professor?
Look, I think this is...
I was going to go, sorry, because I had Jason earlier in the show. I was going to go to Professor Greer. You're right. You're right to call me out.
So, I mean, Senator Blackburn is, again, just with Donald Trump talking points. But all right, I want to say something in response to what Jason said really quickly when he said pro-life. Sure. There's really no such thing as pro-life. It's pro-choice or anti-choice, right? This is a governmental issue. It's whether or not the government can police a woman's body. And so the judges that Donald Trump is putting in are anti-choice. They're saying that a woman does not have the right to choose what she does with her own medical procedures and how she wants to govern her own body. There are many people who are pro-choice who would choose not to have an abortion because they have the option to choose whether or not this country allows them to have full freedom over their bodies. As far as Senator Blackburn, I think she's just yet another example of a Republican who is now pledged her allegiance to the party of Donald Trump, which is basically a CPAC party right now, and no longer the Republican Party that so many people loved and respected for so many generations.
All important points for viewers to consider as you watch the RNC and you watch the breakdowns. My thanks to our two professors here. I'm going to fit in a break, but we have